Hey everyone! If you struggle with flying smoothly when doing drone moves, such as an orbit to get cinematic footage, then there is an important setting that you might not know about, or you've looked at it and come across it but don't really understand how it works, but it can make a massive difference to how easy it is to fly your drone smoothly. Today I would like to show you how to get to this setting, explain how it works, and show you how I personally set it up to get super smooth footage more easily. Let's jump right in. Now, if you're new around here, welcome to The Drone Creative, the channel that helps you learn more about flying drones, from the basics to the most advanced techniques to help you get more cinematic videos and better images from your drone. So if you would like to see more of that, then please consider subscribing, and when you're down there, make sure to check that notification bell so that you will be alerted when my new videos are released. It would be greatly appreciated. Okay, so let's take a look at this setting, which is going to help you fly more smoothly. And the setting is called the expo curve. So let's first take a look at how we access this setting. So you want to tap the settings menu icon, which is the three dots on the top right of the controller screen. You want to go across to the control tab, and then if you scroll down, you will see an option called gain and expo tuning. Now in here you can do a range of things. For example, you can set the max speeds. So you can set how quickly your drone will fly horizontally or ascend or descend when you push the joystick as far as it will go. You can also control things like how fast the drone will rotate in the air, how quickly the drone will brake or come to a stop when you let off the joystick, and you can control how fast the gimbal will move upwards or downwards. But if we scroll down, you will see the setting we are talking about today, which is the expo curve, and it's under the expo heading. Now you may have seen this setting before when you were in this menu, but maybe the graph just looked too intimidating, it put you off changing any of the settings, or maybe you just don't understand what this option does and so you've left it alone. Well, this setting is actually a really good setting to adjust if you're like me and struggle to get smooth drone footage. Maybe you struggle making small little adjustments on the joysticks of the controller, and this results in you getting twitchy footage when you're doing things like an orbit. Maybe you find the drone just flies too fast for you to be able to keep your subject centered. You find you either have lots of footage where your subject drifts off center and no longer stays in the center of the frame, or again you get twitchy footage as you're continually making adjustments to keep that subject centered. And the reason why the expo curve or the expo settings can really help with this is because you can make the joysticks less sensitive when you've only moved them a small amount off center. And this is where you spend most of the time holding the joysticks when doing drone moves such as an orbit. There's very few drone moves which require you to make large enough inputs or fly fast enough where you have the joysticks held all the way as far as they can go the entire time. Most of the time when we're doing drone moves, you're making really small, subtle inputs on the joysticks themselves. And so if you find holding your fingers in that position quite hard to do, or you're getting twitchy footage, you can actually dial out some of the sensitivity when you're holding the joysticks in them positions, and this is going to result in you getting smoother and less jerky or twitchy drone footage. Now when you first take a look at the expo settings, when you see the graph, you see these different options, it can look quite intimidating. It can be quite hard to understand exactly what this setting does. So what I'm going to do now is explain to you how this setting works so that then you can go out, have a play about with these options and fine tune it to your own personal preference. I will be going over the settings I personally use towards the end of this video, but it helps to understand how these settings work so that you can fine tune them to your own flying style. Now simply put, the expo settings allow you to adjust how the drone reacts speed-wise as you move the joystick further and further away from its center point. And you can do this for the up and down motion, the yawing motion, which is the rotating motion of the drone, and the pitch and roll. And the best way to understand this is to see a demonstration. So let's take a look at the pitch and roll motion. If I adjust this value all the way down, you will see the green line on the graph to the left has just moved, and the green line corresponds to the pitch and roll because you can see the little green icon next to the pitch and roll. And you can see this has flattened out the initial part of that curve. And so what this graph is now showing you, because we have flattened the initial part of that curve, is that as I initially start to move the joystick away from the center point, the drone's not actually going to move at all because that curve is flat. But as I move the joystick further and further away from the center point towards the edge, the movement is going to get faster quite quickly as that graph ramps up. Now if I go back to the expo settings and I adjust that pitch and roll expo setting all the way to its maximum value, you can see the graph is now completely changed. Instead of flattening the curve, we have now made the initial part of the curve pretty much vertical, and then it curves off very quickly towards the top. And this is going to result in your drone going to its maximum speed pretty much as soon as you move that joystick away from the center point. You can see the second I push that joystick off its center point, we are now pretty much at maximum speed straight away. And lastly, if we go back into the expo settings and we set the pitch and roll value to be 0.5, you can see that green line is now a perfectly straight 45-degree angle. And what that now means is the joystick response is going to be linear. So instead of having a slow movement initially, getting much faster, or a really fast movement straight away, the speed of the drone is going to match up perfectly to how far you push that joystick away from the center point. So as you push the joystick further and further away from that center point, the drone is going to get faster and faster in a very linear way. And so as you can see, if, as mentioned earlier, you struggle with doing drone moves such as an orbit when you're only holding the joysticks a small amount off the center point, by lowering these expo values, you can actually reduce how sensitive that initial area around the joystick is as you only move it a small amount off center, and this will dial out that twitchiness or that jerkiness in your footage as you're doing the drone move. Now, because everybody's different and everybody likes a different responsiveness from their drone, some people like a very fast responsive drone and they can control the drone smoothly themselves. They don't need the drone to dial out any twitchiness or jerkiness. Or some people are like me and actually find they are quite twitchy and jerky on the joysticks and like the drone to dial out some of that movement so you can get nice smooth shots. I recommend going out and playing about with these settings yourself and find ones that work best for you. But I'm going to give you the settings I personally use so you can use these as a good starting point. Now, it's quickly worth mentioning that I only adjust the expo curves for Cine and normal mode, as those are the two modes that I capture videos in. I never really use sport mode to capture footage. I use sport mode to get my drone into position quickly, to get it centered on my subject, and then I switch into Cine and normal mode. And the reason for that is I just find sport mode is too fast to get nice, slow cinematic motion in your videos. I use Cine mode most of the time, especially if I'm flying low to the ground or close to my subjects, and I use normal mode if I'm flying higher in the air. And the reason for that is I find sometimes Cine mode when your drone is high in the air is almost too slow. It can almost look as if your drone isn't moving at all. So if I'm flying high in the air, I usually put it into normal mode, and that way I can convey some motion in my videos. Okay, so let's start with the Cine expo curve settings. So if I scroll down, what I like to do is reduce all of these to 0.15 or 0.15. And I find that just makes it so much easier to hold them joysticks ever so slightly off center, as it reduces some of that responsiveness when you're only making smaller inputs. And the same goes for normal mode. So if I switch over to normal mode now and scroll down, I also set these expo settings to 0.15. And I think those settings are a really good starting point. These are the settings I use all the time when I'm out flying, but they're a good starting point for you to head out and play about with these settings to find the ones that work best for you. So there you have it. Hopefully now you understand how to access the expo curve on your DJI Mini 3 Pro and how to adjust it to help you fly more smoothly and get more cinematic videos with your drone. Now, before you go, if you liked this video and you learned something new, please let me know by giving me the thumbs up and clicking that like button down below. And if you love all things drones and want to know how to get more cinematic videos and better images from your drone, then I recommend you check out my channel where I have a ton of other content to help you level up your drone game. If you don't want to miss any of my upcoming drone tutorials, then I recommend you click that subscribe button down below and make sure to check that notification bell so that you will be alerted when my new videos are released. It would be greatly appreciated. And if you want to stick around and watch a few more drone tutorials now, here's a few I personally recommend. I'll not keep you back any further. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you over there.